What is the best treatment for PTSD? Now, before we dive into this, you need to know that I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a doctor of any kind. I have, however, worked successfully with trauma clients, oftentimes because their therapist or their psychologist knew that there was a different intervention from an NLP perspective that could help them much faster. So this video might be for people who have trauma. This might be for therapists. This might be for coaches. Okay, NLP pracs. Trauma, from my worldview, is an over-association to a traumatic incident. Okay, so something bad happens, the nervous system experiences intense emotions that is way too much for that individual to handle at the time. And then they do not disassociate from it over time. Even though they know the event is over, their nervous system is still associated to it whenever they're being triggered, right? So flashbacks, nightmares, the hypervigilance, these things come from, again, my map, that individual being overly associated to the trauma. So NLP has, in my opinion, a unique advantage in helping people with trauma because of our frequent use of disassociation and double disassociation, right? So with trauma clients, we double disassociate them from the trauma, and then we run them through something like the rewind, the phobia process. And what I have seen happen over and over and over again with people who have had the most severe effed up traumas that are imaginable, stuff that, frankly, watching this, you probably didn't even think are possible for people to experience. I have watched them double disassociate, run the movie through the phobia process, and the trauma is gone within 5 to 15 minutes per that traumatic incident. And if there's more than one, there's some generalization that needs to happen, but once the brain learns that you can disassociate from negative memories, you can disassociate from them. And the brain can generalize. It's amazing to watch happen. And I mean, my clients who've been in therapy for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, working on this fucked up trauma that, excuse my language, this messed up stuff that happened to them, their therapists are stunned. Who are you? When did this happen? Right? Cool. So, and by the way, this is not just my opinion. There is great research that demonstrates this now. If you go to the Research and Recognition Project, I can't remember the exact website, but I think they're in their 5th, going on 6th replication study now, where over 90% of participants in the study had complete extinction of PTSD symptoms. Complete extinction of PTSD symptoms, not reduction. And that level of success is unheard of in this space. So anyway, now they're in their 5th replication study. In all of the studies they've done in the Research and Recognition Project, they have an over 90% success rate in extinguishing PTSD symptoms. This changes everything. This must mean the field of psychology and the field of therapy must begin to look at and really closely examine things like submodalities, things like disassociation, things like anchoring, and must really look at and reconsider NLP as a change work modality. We must. In addition, something that's really cool in those studies is they have brain imaging studies. So you can watch the person's brain pre and post intervention. If you have trauma, get someone to do a double disassociation for you. The fastest and easiest way to get over it. Second thing I want to go into about treating PTSD. Steve Andreas has, in my opinion, not only the best course on treating PTSD, but one of the most important and best courses on NLP change work. and it's his course on the PTSD complex. Now, complex, not as in the opposite of simple, but meaning that PTSD can come with a host of issues, right? So if I have been traumatized and I'm reliving this trauma over and over again, well, I'm hypervigilant now. So I'm going into the world in an anxious or overly aroused state. And we know from anchoring, we know from neuroscience, we know that neurons that fire together are wired together. So it's quite likely that I'm going to have some other stuff going on. I might not be as calm as I could be, right? So part of the PTSD complex is being able to treat anxiety, yeah? Being able to deal with things like guilt and shame. Being able to deal with grief and loss. Like if a veteran came back from war and they lost somebody, that we need to be able to help people with that. So PTSD comes as oftentimes more than the initial trauma itself. And then even more than that, what are the decisions about themselves, their beliefs about themselves, their beliefs about the world, their beliefs about their capabilities that people made from the traumatic incident? So if, for example, your dad beat the crap out of you, did you make any bad decisions about your self-worth or your capability or what other people are like as a result of that? All right, so this is one area where I think hands down NLP has, look, I have a bias. It's obvious. I'm an NLP trainer. But now the research is finally starting to come out. It's amazing. Once you start looking at these neuroscience guys, Andrew Huberman, right? All of a sudden now, they're backing up everything we've been saying in NLP for the last 40 years. Not like I was there, but, I was listening to Andrew Huberman's podcast on grief and loss, and he's talking about submodalities by a different name. So anyway, trauma is... I hesitate to say it because I don't want to minimize how painful trauma can be. But trauma is easy to treat. If you know how to disassociate the client from the trauma, you're done with that piece. The next piece is, was there anything else that we need to change as a result? And oftentimes that entire thing can be very, very quick. All right, so by the way, if you want to book a session with me for coaching, you can click the link below and apply for coaching. If you want to attend a training, see the link below to see if I'm doing a training at the time you're watching this.